How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to Killmark Collectors. Today, we're going to be doing another creator spotlight, and we are going to be talking with Chikin, who is I'm going to say more of a PvP focused and a little bit of other stuff when it comes to the type of content he makes. But rather than me tell you about it, why don't we just jump right in? Chikin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your flexibility and you dealing with me not knowing how to actually record. So I definitely do appreciate your patience there and doing this a second time with me. So it's great to have you here.
Oh, no worries. I was smart enough to take notes before our first interview, so the viewers will get pretty much the same thing.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you are a professional while I'm just the bumbling idiot here. So. Why don't we start though with just kind of a quick overview of what you do, kind of the content you make, and what got you into content creation in the first place?
Well, what I do is I try to find like questions that I hear asked a lot, or questions that I have that then get echoed by somebody else independently. Like the gap between having fun and not having fun. You know, everybody kind of knows these things, but nobody knows them. And so I kind of want to put myself out there to say, hey, it's, not as hard as you're making it out to be. It's a molehill, not a mountain. And just kind of helping people traverse that body of knowledge. I recently was in the audience of So You Want to Be a Billionaire on one of the Echoes of New Eden podcasts, and
nice.
I was like, either I know everything about or I can't remember what I said, but it was one of those like epiphany moments where I'm like, I know way too much about this game.
That's awesome. Well, what kind of made you start? I know you said that you enjoy kind of the helping bridge the gap and some of that, but was that really the impetus for you starting to make content, or was there something else that kind of got you going with it?
So I've always been kind of interested in content creation since probably about 15 years ago in the days of Towley with World of Warcraft. It's kind of been something on my shoulder that, that I never really pushed forward with because I was always more work focused. And then one day, Benzie made a video about the auto salvagers, and I couldn't stop myself from, I'm on my way to work, hit record on my camera, and it was like, I'm just putting it out there because, I had a different outlook than he had at the time. And I don't know if his views changed, but, to summarize that video, auto looters are cool and you don't need skills. When I started, I was like, you know what? That took like 5-10 minutes. I'm just going to do this again. And then it kind of made it my hobby.
That kind of brings up a question, because that was a while ago, if I remember correctly, and you're now in kind of the full content creation mode and one of the new official content creators. But is there anything that, you've kind of put out and you said, man, that was awesome. That was a really cool piece of content, or, that's kind of my favorite piece of content that I've made so far. Have you kind of have anything where you would say, first thing that I would point somebody to is this video or something like that?
Yeah, I think the one that, and I'm not sure if it's because it was spotlighted on the news or what, but the one that kind of had the most fun recording, I learned the most from, and I was, it had the biggest viewership on my channel so far, is the How to Be an FC. It's about an hour long, but I've had people even publicly say that even though it's that long, like it's kind of you never find yourself wanting to like turn it off. And I was like, yeah, I did it, because I worked really hard on that video, and I learned so much from it too.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a really interesting video, even for me, having run some fleets and all that. I'm obviously not a big CTA type of fleet FC or whatever. But it definitely was a really cool video and chock full of information. So I'll try to link it up here or wherever if I can find the button to do that. But I think that was definitely a really cool one for me to watch, just as I was kind of doing some background here for our conversation and getting to know you a little bit more as a new content creator as well. So definitely would recommend that. But it kind of begs the question. So what you got coming up next? You know, where you going? How are you going to top that one?
That's a good question. I have a couple of things that I want to do. I did a video recently on like, do you want to skill in everything and be good at everything or be great at a few? And I had a buddy of mine who actually did that, and I referenced in the video. I want to do a follow-up interview with him after he's had a time to play it for some time. Our schedules haven't quite met up, but the initial reactions are really good. And the one that I'm probably most excited about that I just found out about a couple of days ago, it might be out by the time that your video airs, but I don't know if it'll be out because the interviews tend to take me a little while. So recently, the executor of No changed hands. They do that every now and then, and the most recent executor to step down was Run, and I have an interview scheduled with him. The topic will be Mercenary Alliance, and I haven't formulated all the questions yet, but that's kind of like going to be the focus. It's Mercs.
Very cool. Yeah, I always find it interesting when, you know, we talk with people like that, or when I have the opportunity to interview a big FC or the head of an alliance, just because they have such a different perspective, you know, than a lot of us kind of line pilots. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll definitely tune in for that one for sure.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm gonna take from your the way you do it is I'm gonna do my best to keep it under a half an hour, and separately. On the topic of like, he just thinks at another level, so it's really hard to come up with some of those initial questions, like, you know, some of the basic ones, yeah, but then, you know,
yeah,
I want to ask this one thing. What is that one thing? So
you need that Barbara Walters moment, right?
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, so let's transition maybe from the content creation side into kind of how you enjoy the game. Obviously, you're in No and kind of in the, I'll say in the mercenary lifestyle or pirate's life for me type of thing, right? But I mean, if we were to run into each other, you know, in the middle of space, what would you be flying, or kind of what's your gameplay style, and you know what should I be expecting to blow me up next time?
Probably my two favorite ships are the Mercurial and the Cinnabal. I tried doing the frigate thing. I get blown up like almost immediately when I'm in a frigate. Doesn't matter what kind of frigate it is. Doesn't matter what I'm fighting. It just pops. So
they are squishy.
Yeah. I could have just been rolling all ones, you know what I mean? But the Cinnabal is my favorite, just the play style of it, and the Mercurial feels like a big Cinnabal. The fact that, you know, I can have that 4.5 warp speed just natively on the Cinnabal is good. Mm-hmm. Get his DPS up to, you know, beyond some, poorly fit battleships.
Yeah. No, that's a great ship. I love my Cinnabal. I've been flying the Vigilant more recently when it comes to faction cruisers, but the Cinnabal was my first faction cruiser, so it's definitely got a special place in my heart. That's for sure. And I haven't gotten a Mercurial yet, just because I'm cheap and don't typically buy faction battleships. But you know, that's fine. So
yeah, it's kind of like owning a POS with REMs. You know, you kind of know it's a good idea, and then you get one, and you're like, I want so many more.
Yeah, I've been toying with the idea. I actually have a lot of drone skills, and so I've been thinking about doing a rattlesnake, but I just I don't know. It's a big investment that I'm sitting here like, oh, I could buy so many Arby's with that and go and blow myself up in other ways, like, and I won't care. So maybe I'll just keep doing that. But I don't know. It's a investment that I need. I know I need to make. I just haven't quite gotten there yet. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm super jealous of. The Vigi, Vindy, just really any faction besides Garisa and Angel, because they have extra perks that actually affect the battlefield more than just speed and damage.
right, exactly. Well, and I love the Cinnable just from it can be a hard hitting cruiser, right? And you can speed tank with it and do all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, to your point, like especially if I'm flying a faction frigate, I'm gonna be flying the Daredevil or the Succubus, just because again, like the perks and the bonuses really can change the way that you fight, more than just I want to get in there and hit as hard as I can.
Yeah, exactly.
So well, in terms of the play style and all of that, I know that you mentioned the Cinnable and being able to be, in no and some of that other stuff. But is that kind of your, I'll say, ultimate play style, or maybe kind of what's something that you really enjoy about that, or what's maybe something that you would change, not just about kind of this play style or the way that you play the game currently, but maybe something that you'd like to see in the game as a whole that you think could really be beneficial to a variety of players?
I think one of the biggest frustrations that I had along the way, and that um, I see a lot of other people complaining about, less so in no, because it's kind of like we don't have a specific home, and so we're always everywhere, and there's always somebody with some kind of intel. But that's something I would like to see extended to the game as a whole, because before no, I had no idea where to actually go hunt, except the person my alliance was fighting at the time, and they're asleep right now. So what do I do if I want to go practice PvP? It was before I knew about Tama even, so I'm like, I think that one cool idea that I think it's a cool idea is to add kind of like a heat map to the star map maybe in the regions, not necessarily like the constellations or systems. I know we have the kill bots, but I think it would benefit the people who are trying to find other people for content, and it would benefit the people trying to avoid other people for content, because equally, in my opinion. And, I'm sure that there would be a lot of people on both sides that were, excited or absolutely hated the idea. But I think mitigating the time between when I log into the game and when I'm doing what I want to do in the game would, not me specifically, but the figurative we, then I think that would help a lot. It would make it feel more like a mobile game instead of like a tedious MMO that you played a mobile game sometimes on.
Right. And I think that jump clones definitely help with that a little bit, but to your point, knowing where to go, so I'm not just, I don't want to say scrolling, but I mean just, running through a bunch of systems trying to find content. I mean, I think that would be an interesting dynamic and something to put on the mobile aspect, I guess, a little bit more. That's, hey, I'm going to pick up my phone for 5 minutes and be playing. That's definitely something that's a little bit different with Echoes in that, yeah, it is played on an iOS or Android or whatever, but it's not like, Mech Arena or, even Diablo or some of these where you can just jump in and, oh, I'm now immediately going out and doing something impactful. I really have to be very strategic with where I'm going to be spending my time and how I'm going to position myself to do that.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't necessarily ever want it to turn into I played for 5 minutes kind of game. I think DIR kind of solved that itch, or faction war games, I should say. We're still waiting for DIR, but same season, and
right.
but Yeah, I would be out searching in space for like 2-3 hours, and of course I didn't ask nobody. I just got on and was like, "Oh, I'll go this kind of way." So I made mistakes, but
Sure.
but yeah,
Don't we all?
yeah, yeah. It was hard for me to take a fleet out when those were always my experiences. Like, come on, guys, let's go and talk for 2 hours. All right, we're back at Losec.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel you there. I mean, it's definitely a deflating feeling as an FC when you're like, all right, I'm so excited for this roam, and then you go out and you're like, and I can't find anybody. This is awful, So I definitely feel you there, and anything that can help with that, I think is definitely good. To your point, some of that is kind of the meta game, if you will, where you have to know what's going on around you, or just around New Eden in general, where different alliances are kind of headquartered. I think the Sov map helps with that a little bit because you can see at least where people are now. But it definitely is still kind of a crapshoot at times, with different time zones and all of that. So I think that would definitely be a very interesting addition to the game.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't something like that, but something that kind of helped people steer in a certain direction in their time zone. Because I'm in Pacific U.S. time zone, and that's commonly referred to as the worst time zone. And I'm like, that makes sense now.
Yeah, everybody goes to bed on the East Coast before you're really getting on to play.
Exactly.
Well, so, maybe the next question then is, obviously we've talked about how can things be changed and, what would you add, all of that. But maybe what's something that's in the game right now already that you would want to tweak or see? I don't want to say, completely revamped, but maybe just changed a little bit to better suit the players.
I think, I really like jump clones. I don't know enough about them to say one way or the other on that, but I think one of the biggest problems that I see that we've had persistently for a long time is that all ships are like cars. As soon as you buy them, they depreciate, with rare exception, and that's because the market never goes away. Insurance recreates it, so I think if we had something like a way to reprocess old hulls, like you can reprocess crappy modules, I think it would help revitalize industry to not be forced to go. The only thing we build is capitals and structures. Why do you have any other shipbuilding besides battleship? And I realize there's reasons, so don't get mad at me, industry people. But I think that could, just like it does with modules, like have it do like a percentage back. You don't get the ISK, but you get some of the materials. And if you wanted to, you could be a bag of whatevers and make it return completely different materials that don't have anything to do with anything, but at least then it would erase the ships from the system. And
yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, I think that there's a lot of supply and not enough demand, and so to your point, even if it's, hey, I can bring all of the ships that I had over the last 2 years basically to one spot, and then sell them to our indie folks to reprocess and do a bunch of stuff that can then be turned into the capitals or whatever. That would definitely be a very interesting dynamic and something that would be a nice little bump for a lot of players, I'm sure. All right, so let's go kind of wrap this up here. I know we're kind of, to your point, we try to keep these fairly short because I know my attention span is not what it used to be. But I think that the last thing I'd really want to say is, how do you kind of describe yourself as a content creator? I know you mentioned that you're, bridging the gap and trying to be a little bit of a fount of knowledge, if you will. But what's the kind of the one word or the pitch line that you would have if somebody's coming and saying, hey, I need to find a content creator that does X? What would that kind of X be for you, or how would you kind of describe your style, if you would?
I'm still trying to define that specifically, but when I started out, I think I believe I mentioned it earlier, but the idea of there was a couple of videos I have where it's like re-rolling your nanocore to get perfect stats on the first 3 stats. The first one's always perfect, but then like the next 2 are actually easy to get perfect. It just makes your eyes bleed and has a little bit of an investment cost after the second tier. But it was something that had been common knowledge to me. But then when I offhandedly mentioned it here and there, people were like, "What?" Or like the regional delivery being absolutely free if you're in the same region, and instant. So it's kind of like taking the stuff that everybody knows, but not everybody actually knows. Like those 2 things.
Right.
And then kind of looking at things, what it's kind of become is me looking at things in a different way. I like the idea of, sure, there's lots of things that people would want to change, would want to have different, but instead of crying about how something's wrong or broken, I go in, and I'm probably going to do that at some point, but I'll go in and, how can we solve this annoyance with things that actually currently exist in the game? Like, I want them to change the ships going away, but in reality, you can just take your ship, go have a heck of a lot of fun, blow it up, check the buy orders, and if there's a buy order created for your ship blowing up, then you just turn dust into ISK. And there's ways of utilizing the game in its current state to have more fun than you're currently having, and to just not stay focused on the stuff that bothers you.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the content that you're coming out with, man. I will be sure to put a link in the description for anybody wanting to check out Chikin's channel. This has been awesome, man. I really do appreciate you jumping on. And again, I apologize for having to do this twice, but it's a pleasure from talking to you both times. So glad that we were able to reconnect, even if it was a little bit early on a Saturday morning here for you.
Hey, no worries. And thanks again for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, we'll keep talking in the content creator group and on Discord, obviously. But if you guys have any questions for Chikin, be sure to go over to his channel, check out some of his videos, and leave a comment there. I'm sure that he is going to be very excited to see you. So be sure to go over there, give him a like and subscribe for sure. But until next time, everybody, thanks so much for joining. Looking forward to seeing you guys out in space. Chikin, looking forward to seeing you and some of the new content that you're putting out. And until next time, remember, kill marks last forever and fly safe. Have a good one, y'all.